Hello everyone, it's Meeko here. I had a request on my Facebook fan page for a tutorial on how to make this sweet resin necklace charm. So that's what I will be showing you how to do today. So first of all, let me show you what you're going to need. You're going to need the mold. Now this is a multi-cavity mold that I got from Molded from Love. But she also has it available in a single cavity mold. If you send her a message, I'm sure she can give you pricing and all that, or you can just go to her website and search for word molds. She has tons of different ones. So you're going to need that. The next thing you're going to need is obviously your resin. I'm using this resin from Easy Cast. You're going to need a cup to mix your resin in, as well as a popsicle stick to mix it with. Also going to need a straw for blowing out any bubbles, or you can also use a toothpick. You're going to need paint brushes. We're going to be painting the mold before we pour the resin. Also, if you decide not to paint, you can use a permanent marker like a Sharpie. That works just as well, and it doesn't stain. It comes off super easily even though it's permanent. Something in the resin just makes it come up. So I'll be using this black acrylic paint. You can use whatever color you want the background to be. And for these little, they look like little sprinkles. You can use actual sprinkles if you have them. The only problem with that is sometimes they'll bleed into the resin and cause it to change colors. So I am using these. They're just little plastic, kind of like nail caviar, little plastic balls that are multicolor. So that's what I'm going to be using for this. And I'm going to be using just a little bit of eyeshadow pigment just to give the resin a slight color. You can't really tell on this one, but you can tell more on the back. You can totally skip that step. You don't have to do it. I just like to do it in case someone flips it over. Just looks a little bit more appealing. So we're going to begin by painting the mold. To get into small areas, I recommend using like nail art brushes. This is one that I have here. It's super fine. Or you can use a regular paintbrush that's a bit small. So I usually start out by painting right where the lip of the letter starts, and I just kind of paint the edge around it. And I just use this small brush to do that. And then once I'm done with that, I start painting the outer part. And it's okay if you make a mess on the outer part. Like here, that'll always just wash off since it's acrylic paint. And then you would just fill in between that and the inner outline that you made. And just continue doing that on the entire mold until you're done. Now you may have to do this more than once if your acrylic paint is a little bit thin, just to make sure that you can't see through it. So I'm going to finish painting this and then I'll come back and show you guys how to do the resin part. Okay, so I am done painting the mold. So that's what it will look like finished. Once your paint has dried completely, you're going to go ahead and take those little caviar balls, and you're going to make sure that your mold is balanced. So I'm just putting a paintbrush underneath this one just to balance it out a little bit more. Then you may need a toothpick for this part. We're just going to start slowly dropping the nail caviar balls in. I'm just going to kind of force them all around. Then you can take your toothpick and just kind of knock down the ones that are on the painted part. It's okay if you leave some of them though. Since we painted it black, they're not going to show up through on the other side. But if it bothers you, you can. Just make sure you have all the gaps filled in with the caviar balls. Alright, once that's done, we're going to go ahead and start mixing the resin. Okay, so we're going to pour our resin now. I'm using this little measuring cup. It's like for medicine. I'm probably going to want to do a tablespoon of resin. So I'm going to do half a tablespoon of the part A, or just the regular resin, and then another half a tablespoon of part B, the hardener. Taking our popsicle stick, we're going to go ahead and mix this. I mix mine for about 15 minutes, very slowly. This helps prevent air bubbles, and it also helps ensure that your resin is mixed thoroughly. Sometimes if you don't mix the resin long enough, whenever you pour it, it doesn't cure properly and your piece will be bendy instead of hard, and you don't want that. So I'm going to mix this for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to add some of this loose pink eyeshadow pigment, mica powder. You can also use that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this for 10 minutes, then I'll come back and show you guys how I add this to it. Okay, so I've mixed the resin for about 10 minutes. So now we're going to add that loose shadow. You guys can skip this part. You don't have to do it. It's just something extra that I like to do. You can also add glitter instead, just whatever you want. Or add another color to this if you want it to be colored. So taking a toothpick, I just put a little bit of pigment into my resin. You don't want to put too much. If you put too much, your resin won't cure properly. And then I'm going to mix this in for another 5 minutes. Make sure if you're adding color or anything else, you scrape the sides. Sometimes it can stick there and it won't distribute evenly. And also, if you have any bubbles, just take your straw. You can blow out any bubbles that you have. So I'm going to continue mixing this, and then I'll come back and show you guys the pour. Okay, so I have finished mixing the resin. As you can see, it's this subtle pink color. And it's all mixed through. So now I'm going to pour. Okay, so taking my resin, first I'm going to take my popsicle stick, get some resin on it, and I'm just going to follow the outline of the letters. And I usually do that first just to make sure that I don't get any air bubbles, because if with these little nail caviars, sometimes bubbles will rise to the top, and it's easier for me to pour it this way than to pour it all at once. Sometimes if you pour it all at once too, it'll push the nail caviar out of the cavity. So I do it this way. Okay, once you have all the letters covered, I'm going to take the straw and gently blow. This will help any bubbles rise to the top. And then once that's done, you can go ahead and slowly, I usually start in the middle of the mold and slowly start pouring the rest, and it'll push its way outward. And right here, I'm just making sure I have all the edges coated with resin. And they are. Again, taking my straw, going to gently blow. Okay, so that's done. You'll go ahead and let this dry. I let mine dry for a full 24 hours. Most of the time it's done by 12. And pop it out. And this is what you end up with. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Feel free to try it with just different colored resin or with glitter, or you can even use different plastic flakes that they use for nails. You can use just whatever you have. Just use your imagination. See you next time. Bye.